All right, welcome back. This is session number 4, part 4 of the New Covenant and Unleavened Bread. And we're going to pick it up here again in Genesis 18. And we were covering the covenant made with Abraham and the covenant of circumcision, where males have to be circumcised. And you can't keep Passover if you don't either. So they're tied together here. Going on. Yahuwah said, "Shall I hide?" This is Genesis 18:17. "Shall I hide from Abraham the thing which I do?" He's talking about he's going to burn up Sodom and Gomorrah. Well, he's going to burn up America here too. We get burned up a nuclear bomb fire coming up very soon, I think. I'm no prophet, but I think it's coming soon. I think you've got a matter of weeks or months, not years. And he tells you this in Revelation 18. The daughter of Babylon gets burned up in a day. He tells you this in Jeremiah 50:51, Isaiah 47:48, Isaiah 13:14. You can read all about this. Similar kind of thing. Going on in 18, "Seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him." And we have. Abraham has become a great nation. He's become the United States, Great Britain, France, the Israelite nations, and all the nations of the world were blessed in him. But here's the key, 18:19, that I wanted to get to. "For I know him that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of Yahuwah to do justice and judgment, that Yahuwah may bring upon Abraham that which he has spoken of him." And he goes on about the cry of Sodom, and their sodomy, like we have here in America, is very grievous, their sin. But Abraham commands his children and his household. Now, we don't like this nowadays. Nobody wants to be commanded, and the women all have liberty to do what they want, and the children do too, and they talk back, and nobody's being commanded and keeping the ways of Yahuwah. Over here are very few, precious few. And this is why he gets blessed, that he may bring upon Abraham these blessings that he spoke of him. Because he's keeping justice and judgment. He's keeping the way of Yahuwah. And this is what's required. This is what you agree to when you do this Passover and kill a lamb. And you're showing your obedience by killing a lamb like he told you to, forever, throughout your generations. And you're agreeing to this covenant. And we'll cover that later, the words that they used. All that Yahuwah has said, we will do and be obedient. People don't like that nowadays. They don't like obedient. They want to do what's easy and what's fun. And you'll find out, if you just do it, that it is fun. It is nice. It's wonderful. But that's why the blessings came upon him. And in Genesis 15:5, 6, and 7, he tells them that he's going to be numbered as the stars of heaven. If you be able to number them, he said, so shall your seed be. And that's what happened with Abraham. Here we are, descendants of Abraham. He believed in Yahuwah and counted him for righteousness. He said unto him, I am Yahuwah that brought thee out of the Ur of the Chaldees to give you this land to inherit. Paul tries to twist this and say that that's it, that he's counted righteousness so he doesn't have to keep the commands. No, he just got done telling you he keeps the commands of Yahuwah. And you'll figure out that Paul's a liar. Okay, and he goes on here in Genesis 15 about this. And in this covenant of Abraham, he kills these things too. He said, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? He's making this covenant with Abraham. And he says, take you a heifer 3 years old, and a goat, and a ram, and a turtle dove, and a pigeon. And he divides them in the midst in 15:10, cuts them in half. So he has to kill these animals too. These covenants are often made with the killing of animals. Noah killed some animals too, back at that time. You can read the rest of that yourself, but he goes on down through there. Now and Yahuwah passes through here, where the sun went down and it's dark, in verse 17, behold, a smoking furnace and a burning lamp passed between those pieces. Usually, back in ancient times, both men would pass between the cut animals that are cut in half, and each piece is put on each side. And what they're saying there is, if I violate this covenant, may I become like these animals, cut in half. And so that's but Abraham doesn't pass through there, just Yahuwah does. And so Yahuwah made a covenant with Abraham, says there in 18, to thy seed I've given this land. So he's given us that land over there. And Strong's definition of covenant is here. Covenant comes from Berit, which where we get British, the covenant man. That's where Berit in British, that's from covenant. It's a compact, or it's a or what we call a contract. And you'll see it's a mutual consent or agreement of two or more persons. You agree to do his commands. You agree for him to be your God. To forbear some act of thing comes from the word to cut too. Like when they say we cut a contract, or we cut a covenant, we cut a deal. Yeah, when you cut a deal, that's because the word comes from to cut, like to cut an animal. The covenant is created by a deed in writing, sealed, and executed. These are all the definitions. You can read them here. Contains the terms of the agreement between the parties. There's clauses. There's the blessing clause, and there's the curses clause. So you want to find out what the blessings are and what the curses are. If you don't do it, what happens to you? Yeah. Like with a house. If you don't pay the payment, they come take the house, or the car. They come and then sometimes they try to get more money out of you, depending on what the downside of the clause is, the contract. Covenant, to enter into a formal agreement to stipulate, bind oneself by a contract. Yeah, you're binding yourself. Yeah. They covenanted with him for 30 pieces of silver. That was Judas in Matthew 26. It's a disposition or a contract, it says here, from Strong's definition. And he says there in Matthew 26:20, this is the blood of the New Testament. The word there's covenant. The new covenant, and it's really a renewed covenant. He doesn't do it with the old one. In fact, he tells you plainly that not one jot or tittle, not a single thing has changed from the law. So when anyone starts trying to convince you that the law has changed, read this again and say, oh, well, he doesn't say that. Matthew 5, you can read. 5:18, 5:17. So this is the new covenant, which is shed for many for the remission of sins. So this is his blood that was shed. And he tells you how you have to enter into this Passover covenant. You have to kill a lamb. He tells you that forever throughout your generations. So you really ought to pay attention to that. The Passover with the disciples, now the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Where will you that we prepare for you to eat the Passover? They're going to eat the Passover lamb. And Luke 22:7, then came the day of unleavened bread, when the Passover must be killed. So they killed a Passover lamb that night. Now the Jews were off a day, and they're doing it kind of like they do today, Seder meals all gathered together, instead of at each house. Luke 22:8, he sent Peter and John, saying, go and prepare us the Passover that we may eat. So it looked like Peter and John were the two that got to prepare the Passover. They must have been the ones that killed it and cooked it. I'm not sure at what time they all showed up and saw it, and what time they all, but there you have it right there. It's plain as day. And he'd have told them, if he didn't want them to do it, he certainly wouldn't say, go kill the Passover that we may prepare, go eat it, go prepare it so that we may eat it. Yeah, on the day when it must be killed. This is the 14th day at evening. That's when they were, at evening on the 14th day. It's very simple now as you read through these. And they all fit together perfectly. Mark 14:12, the first day of unleavened bread, when they killed the Passover, his disciples said unto him, where will you that we go and prepare that you may eat the Passover? Oh, so they're going to go to the house, and they're going to kill a lamb, and they're going to eat the Passover. You'd think that this is speaking in another language or something, because so few people do this, and how they have such a hard time understanding it. The preachers, they can't figure this out. Pastors, priests, rabbis, like the one I talked to, the Beth Messiah Church, they can't figure this stuff out. They can't figure it out. This is, it's like speaking, they have ears to hear, but they hear not. They have eyes to see, but they see not. They're blind guides. Blind guides. Exodus 12:6, and you shall keep it until the 14th day in the same month. The whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. He tells you to kill it in the evening. Yeah, if you're not killing a lamb, boy, I think you get cut off from Israel and you bear your sin, just like Numbers says. And you want him to return for you. He tells you who's going to return from him. Remember, we covered that at the beginning of this with back there in Psalm 50. He's going to return for his saints that have made a covenant with the sacrifice. with a slaughter, with the killing of an animal. Yep, keep it until the 14th day of the month. The whole assembly of the congregation shall kill it in the evening. They shall take the blood, strike it on the 2 doorposts of the house, and they shall eat the flesh in that night. Eat it that night, the 14th night, the Passover night. Now the Jews are doing the next day. And this year they happen to be counting from a day earlier, so they happen to land on Passover Day. At least this Beth Messiah church did. I don't know about the rest of the guys. But he tells you plainly, you have to eat it that night. If you're killing it, in the middle of the day the next day, you're not going to be eating it that night, are you? That night already passed. You missed it. Yeah, roast with fire and unleavened bread and bitter herbs, they shall eat it. 12:9, eat not of it raw, nor sodden it all with water. This is in Exodus, chapter 12. The head, the legs, the purtenance thereof, you have to cook a whole lamb. You have to kill a lamb and roast a whole lamb and eat the meat and burn up what's left. You shall not let anything remain until the morning. That which remains till the morning shall burn with fire. So, it's pretty clear. The Mosaic covenant in Yahuwah, or Yahuwah's covenant, here it is. He looks down from their holy habitation. After he read all the law to them, this is what the covenant he read with them before. From heaven, and bless thy people Israel in the land which you have given us, and swear in the land flows milk and honey. This day Yahuwah God has commanded thee to do these statutes and judgments, that you shall therefore keep and do them with all thine heart and with all thy soul. This would be a good thing to read at Passover, I think. And you have avouched Yahuwah this day to be thy God, to walk in his ways, and to keep his statutes and his commandments and his judgments, and to hearken unto his voice, to listen to him. To listen to him. Most religious people do not listen to him nowadays. And Yahuwah has avouched thee, or vowed, that's where we get the word vow, like you make a vow, has avouched thee this day to be his peculiar people. He has promised, as you should keep all his commandments, to make thee high above all nations which you have made in praise and name and honor, and you may be a holy people unto Yahuwah your God. And the blessings and cursings I list here, and you can read them yourself, but in short, there's blessings and cursings to this covenant. And in Jeremiah 31:31, he tells you he's going to write this law in your heart. He doesn't do away with this. He's going to write it in your heart, that you will keep these commands. But the blessings are, if you hearken diligently, this is the good part of the covenant. If you hearken diligently and do what you're told, and observe to do all his commandments, which he tells you this day, he says there in Deuteronomy 28:1, that Yahuwah thy God will set you high above all nations and bless you. The blessings will overtake you if you hearken unto his voice. That means you got to listen. When he says kill a lamb and don't break a bone, you got to listen. You can't be like the Jews and doing a lamb shank roast, or you can't be like the Christians and Catholics doing a fertility goddess day. 28:3, blessing shall you be in the city, and blessed shall you be in the field, the fruit of your body, so you'll have children and good healthy children. You're going to be blessed. The fruit of your cattle, your goats or cows will increase. The fruit of your kine, the flocks of your sheep, your basket and your store. You'll have children just at the right time, and a wonderful wife will come along, and it'll be just a great blessing. Or your cattle will grow good if you keep these commands. If you don't, I think you get the cursings. Blessed shall you be when you come in. Blessed shall you be when you go out. And you'll smite your enemies. You'll win. You'll win in battles and stuff, if everybody's keeping these. Now, the whole country gets judgment. So just some of these, the judgments come upon the country. And even if you're keeping them, you got to get out of the way of harm, because the whole country is going to get judged. And so that's why he tells you, flee out of Babylon. Get out of the midst of her. Why? Because she's going to get judged. Going on, Deuteronomy 28:15, but it shall come to pass if you will not hearken. These are the curses, and the curses go on a long way. Cursed shall you be in the city, cursed in the basket, cursed the fruit of your body, cursed when you come in, cursed when you go out. If you don't do these things, you get cursed. And we're wondering why we have a lot of these. The pestilence will cleave to you. Wherever you go, he'll smite you with a consumption, a fever, an inflammation, an extreme burning, mildew. One of these is cancer. The botch of Egypt, that's cancer. The head shall be as brass unto you, and the land as powder. This is stuff that's going to come upon us. And your enemies are going to be smitten. You're going to be smitten before your enemies. So we're going to be struck down before our enemies are going to kill us. Yeah. And you're going to flee 7 ways before them. And your carcass